also an architect. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation, and your project should be presented in the following order: the site plan, the elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present the staff report, and then we will ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as the presentation. When coming to the microphone, please state and spell your name clearly. If you're here to speak for or against a project, your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed, and the only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the city ordinance, chapter 27 of the city zoning code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review, or HPDRC comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing tonight. Please remember the ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility, and owner and or their agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do silence your cell phones, and I will ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Post. I am the public policy representative to the commission. Thank you.
My name is Dan Myers. I am an architect.
My name is Stephen Sutton. I am a registered architect. I also hold the architectural historian chair for this commission.
And with us tonight, we have attorney Dana Crosby Collier to my right. We have Alexis Guzman, we have Elaine Lund, and we have Ron Vila. And then we have the minutes from February. Unless we have any comments that we need to review, can I have a motion to enter those into the record?
I move that the Architectural Review Commission public hearing meeting minutes for Monday, February 5th, 2024 be accepted to the record as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Unanimous. Mr. Vila.
Commissioners, Ron Vila, I'm staff of Historic Preservation. Under Commissioners, we have in your packet the administrative approvals. You could look through that, and we will receive and file at the end of the public hearing along with any items that are submitted through the public hearing. I'd like to let everybody know we're handling our caseload tonight. We will not be having a Wednesday meeting for the ARC. And then moving forward with a new segment that we have is Preservation in Progress. We'd like to bring some key items to your attention, just to keep you current with some code changes or just some of the challenges we have within Hyde Park District, Seminole Heights District, Tampa Heights District, and Ybor City as well. So the boards kind of overlap with some of the challenges that they have. If we could pull up the PowerPoint presentation, please. Is that on your monitor? No. Not yet. There you go. It's on your monitor now?
It's not on our individual, but we can see the big overhead.
Moving through the brief PowerPoint presentation. This is for the floodplain management, which is FEMA, within the FEMA boundaries, and the Bayshore Boulevard compatible infill. So here you see an aerial from the early 1900s, moving to our current vicinity map, looking along the line. The bay is here, and what's affected is from Platte, is our northern boundary along Bayshore, all the way to Howard. Moving to the Sanborn map from 1931, this is just showing a segment that is within the FEMA boundaries. This is showing the construction type that's there. Yellow is indicated frame construction. The red is brick. You see some blue as you get interior off of Bayshore Boulevard, which is concrete block. And then you see some empty parcels along here that was not fully developed at the time of 1931. This is the new FEMA boundary map. You see the different classifications. Obviously, you have the bay, and then as you come into the Bayshore Boulevard, you have the VE, which is the most intense classification. And then as it comes into the boundaries within Hyde Park, it seems to be aggressively getting into the neighborhood. It used to not be penetrating that far into Bayshore, but it comes farther into Bayshore now, and there's different requirements as well. The flood plain that they're looking for is a minimum of 12 foot as it comes in, and it's going to affect the new construction as it comes forward, and that's part of what this segment is for. So as the house gets raised and finished floor and the height of the structures will be measured from a certain point, and then they get to go up to the 35 foot in this zoning classification along Bayshore. So the houses, the historic homes that are there are going to be a little shorter than the new construction that comes in. That's a code requirement. This is from 1921 when the hurricane came through. It was devastating to the district, and we lost a lot of homes at that time. This one was rebuilt, this is the segment from 1921 that you saw that was damaged. And then this board and a previous board reviewed it, had the hyphen and then the addition. So this was a sensitive addition to a period home that came forward. Just along Bayshore Boulevard, it's a unique street within the Hyde Park Historic District. It has certain setbacks and some retaining walls that are character defining to the area that should be respected. So just looking at some of the properties along Bayshore and some of what your predecessors has approved in the past. This is looking at 4 homes. You have a historic home from 1916, which is here. Looking at the new construction as it fits in here, you look at the scale, the massing, and the setback, and then you have a 1925 house and then a 1913 house. So obviously this was prior to the current FEMA regulations. Back then, the house did not have to come from grade up as high as the code requires today. This is looking at an architectural style that doesn't really complement the historic fabric, but it's not frowned upon either. Your guidelines within the Hyde Park District does not dictate style. So as long as they bring a style in, they define the style, and then the scale, massing, rhythm, alignment, orientation, and material selection is one that'll be discussed by this board as it comes forward. This one here is new construction from 1993. The reason I wanted to show this is a buildable lot next to it. This house just went up for sale, and there was some discussion about them splitting it. I believe it's under one ownership now, and it's not coming forward, but in the immediate future, you will see cases coming forward. The preservation staff has been working with some clients looking to demo some non-contributing structures along Bayshore and then rebuild. Once again, this is a period home from 1912, and this is a contemporary design. You see the scale and the massing is really not too foreign to the district. You see the period retaining wall and then the setback from the property line that's consistent so it doesn't stick out. When we look at new construction, the 2 things that staff really looks at first is the setbacks to be compatible with the historic fabric, and then elevation from grade. Elevation from grade is going to be a challenge within the FEMA boundaries. Once again, this is new construction here, showing the retaining wall, the lavish front lawn that, as you travel down Bayshore, that everybody experiences there. And then lastly, you have 2 period homes on each side, and this came through in 2012, and then you see a little bit how it's starting to creep up here in the height. So a lot of times the height and the style that's established, if you have a flat roof, you could keep that verticality down to a certain degree. Here, when you have these multiple gables, it's more of a challenge, so it's a little more imposing into the district. That's something that we'll try to work within the code and preservation as the requests come forward. That concludes the portion of the preservation in progress. If there's any questions, we could address it. If not, maybe we could wait to the end and we could get started on the public hearing. Moving to our legal, we have Dana's going to address the board at this time.
Good evening, Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. I'd like to inquire if any member of the commission has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening.
I do not.
None?
None.
Okay, thank you. Has any member had an ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this evening?
I have
I have
not.
not.
None.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, moving down the agenda, we have one change. It came after lunch today, so we didn't have a time to redo the agendas, but it's for ARC 23, 374, and the agent is wish to request to a future date. If we could get a motion for that, please.
Do we have a future date?
We do not. They will have to renotice because they've continued 3 times, and per our Robert's Rules of Orders, the renoticing will take care of that.
Okay. Have a motion, please?
I move to grant continuation in the case ARC 23-374 for the property located at 210 East Palm Avenue in Tampa Heights Historic District to a date yet to be determined.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Before we move on, we have to do the swearing.
Yes. So we're ready for the swearing. Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up, including staff, and raise your right hand. Ms. Guzman will swear us in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. And we're ready for the first case.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lunt, Historic Preservation Staff. The first case this evening is, excuse me, at 501 East Sparkman Avenue in the Tampa Heights Historic District. Excuse me. This is an application for new construction of 2 single-family units along with site improvements. There is currently a building on the site. It was constructed in 1994 and is non-contributing to the historic district. So the proposal is to replace the existing structure with the new construction today. I'll move to the photo presentation, please. You have in front of you the map of the Tampa Heights Historic District. This property
Sorry.
on the property is shown in green near the center of the district, a little to the east. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the area, showing the site at the corner of Sparkman Avenue and Central Avenue. And this is the present-day aerial map of the area, again with the property in question outlined in green and at the southeast corner of Sparkman and Central Avenues. This is the existing building that is on the site. This is looking at the property just to the east. This is also a non-contributing structure. And then directly to the west, this is the view. There's no, this is a corner property. There's nothing directly adjacent to it on that side. And this is the view looking across the street at another non-contributing structure on Sparkman. This is the view looking north along Central Avenue. And the view looking south along Central Avenue with the subject site to your left. This is the view looking east on Sparkman. You can see the interstate in the background there. And this is the view looking west towards Central Avenue. This is the alley that runs behind the property. Here we are looking east into the alley. And then looking west from the alley towards Central Avenue, and the subject property would be to our right here in this photo. So with that, I'll have the applicant come forward and present the request.
Hello, my name is Justin Nieman, Nieman. I'm the owner's agent for the project. So just wanted to start by walking through the site plan. So if we start at the front of the property, we have a 17-foot setback to the front porch, 25-foot setback to the building. The 25 is per building code. As far as the front porch projection into the yard, it is allowable to go up to 8 feet, and we meet all the criteria for that allowance. Also, in regards to the front porch and front building, this area in particular is subject to block averaging, which I will flip ahead slightly to show you that we are meeting that block averaging. So our property is in the dashed shading here. The adjacent properties shown to the left. That front porch setback line is shown as is. We are in alignment with all the other porches, and the front of our building is alignment with the front of all of the adjacent properties. And then on the side setbacks, both are 7-foot setbacks there and a 20-foot setback in the rear. Moving back up to the front for a moment, so we have several trees on the property. One of the largest grand oaks at the front we are aiming to preserve and maintain, so the protective radius is shown there around it. On the left-hand side, we are removing some trees because of their proximity to the structure, along with 2 other trees near the rear that are going to be removed. Tree to the right, which is on the neighboring property, we did show the protective radius for it, just with its adjacency to our building in particular, so that that is not being interfered with. On the bottom right of the page is the tree replacement and addition data table that I went over with Steve and Esther from Development and Growth Management to make sure that the amount of trees being removed is in alignment with that, not requiring necessarily anything to be new planted, and that we weren't removing too much on the site as a whole. So that was verified. And then moving through the remainder of the site, at the front, we are showing 2 walkways of semi-pervious concrete, and then in the back, we are showing a parking area of same semi-pervious material, also noted as turf block or equivalent. Verified that with Charlie Rodriguez, who works in stormwater review, to make sure that that was all allowable on the site and calculated with the site data as a whole. So I believe that that is the majority of our site plan. 2 things that I wanted to walk through that were added as a result of the staff report. We were asked to show screening for the mechanicals, which we are showing now, fencing around that mechanical area there where the AC units are, and then fencing on the site as a whole, which may be a little hard to read, but is shown running along the property all the way around, which is typical for the area and a lot of the corner lots. So that was added, and then also the just calling out of the material for the front walk as the concrete was also asked to be added and was put on there. So moving along, as noted, the first portion of this page was just to show alignment with the other buildings along the block. The gray shaded buildings are our contributing structures in the area, and this structure up here, even though it is on the block behind ours, I added due to its relevance with a wraparound porch being a corner lot. On the bottom half of the sheet, you'll see all of the structures as it pertains to their height. One thing to note of importance is the first floor line that is shown here. Within the guidelines, it asks to be in alignment with the other buildings in terms of its height off the ground. So that is what is being shown there. Our first floor is aligning with the other floors on the building with a few steps up to the porch and a step into the finished floor. The next sheet here is just to further clarify the parking on the property. At the rear, we are providing 4 parking spaces per code. There, we were required 2 per dwelling unit for a total of 4, and that is what is shown there. Moving on to the floor plans themselves. As a total, we have 1830 for first floor living and 1752 for second floor living for a total of 3,552. Just want to clarify those numbers in terms of per unit. So that total that I gave you was for the total building. Per unit is 915 square feet for the first floor, 876 for the second, for a total of 1,791. So total building, overall, we have the porch out front, set of steps to both entries, and then a set of steps out the rear to the parking area to allow to enter the home. And we have our porch wrapping around as required by the design guidelines for a corner property. Design guidelines also call for the porch to be 50% of both faces. We are 50% of the corner face, 100% on the front, which is also in alignment with the historic reference that is around the corner on Amelia for the corner property. So that is the first floor. We just have the living area, dining, and kitchen at the rear with the powder room. Moving upstairs, we have 3 bedrooms total with the owners towards the rear, and then bathroom, Jack and Jill bathroom between the secondary bedrooms. And these are just enlarged unit plans to give a little bit better idea of the flow. So again, living room up front, stairs going to the second floor with dining off of that, and then kitchen area at the rear on the first. And then the second floor, again, just secondary bedrooms towards the back with a Jack and Jill bathroom, and then the owner suite up near the front with its own bathroom. This is our roof plan overall. Just hip roof at the front on the porch and a gable for the majority of the structure in the middle, with 2 secondary roofs over the rear of the house to cover the entry stairs at the rear. Moving to the elevation, this is our front elevation. We have elevated porch with a few pier locations shown with brick on them, lattice in between. Front porch railing with the columns shown as well, and then the full rafter tails you can see coming along the front there. And then part of some of the adjustments that were made on this sheet as a result of the conditions. Previously, we had shown an additional piece of trim going along this face. It was asked to use a larger barge raft 1x8 at the gable ends, so that adjustment was made. Originally, there was venting shown in the soffit, breaking up the tongue and groove that is shown between the faux rafter tails. We removed that aluminum vent. It will not be needed in lieu of doing the spray insulation that we're going to provide. And then the fiber cement, we were asked to, on the siding, call it out as smooth, so that note has been added for it to be a smooth finish on the fiber cement. And then lastly, on the window trim, again, a little bit harder to see on here, but the bottom trim work on the window was asked to extend past the window to match the top so that they had the same projection past either side of the window. All right, believe that is it, at least in terms of the conditions and what was adjusted on the elevations. So looking at the rear elevation, again, we're showing a roof over the rear entry doors, supported by brackets. We also have brackets up in the gable end of the house on the rear and the front as well, so that detailing reads on both elevations. And detailing for a lot of the elements on the elevation are found on the same page. So we have railing detail calling out the overall height and sizing, bracket detail as well, and then our window and door trims are called out, along with our column sizing and construction, and our soffit details and our porch box beam detail that is shown there. Moving to the side elevations, again, you can see the rear has the roof overhang with the bracket, and then the porch at the front with steps down to the walkway, similar on the right-hand elevation. And then we get to our building sections. On the left here is our two-story building section, and the correspondence back to our soffit detail on the elevation sheets. Again, this is our section through the porch area. And one of the items that was asked to call out here was calling out the porch ceiling material. So we called that out as the tongue and groove to match what we were showing in the soffit. And then in addition, we were asked to change the direction of the composite decking on the front porch to run perpendicular to the house. So we made those changes on that. And then these are, moving a little bit further down, is our window section. We were asked to show that the trim is flush with the siding, so that adjustment was made. And then also there was incorrectly a concrete sill being shown at the bottom of the window. We changed that to the fiber cement trim that is called out on the windows in general throughout the sheets. And then also this is our front door section that is shown as well. In terms of materiality on the elevations, have everything numbered on the front. So our first is our tongue and groove for the soffit, so kind of showing that material there. Second is our I apologize, it doesn't look like I have a number 2, so there's a faux pas on my part, but it's just our composite railing at the front, and then 3 is our shingle roof for both the porch and main house. Number 4 is our smooth fiber cement siding, which is seen throughout all of the elevations. 5 is our typical siding corner board. And 6 is our wood bracket. 7 is the windows, and 8 the exterior doors. 9 showing our fiber cement columns. 10 is for our coach light. 11 for the semi-pervious sidewalks at the front of the house. And then 12 for the permeable pavers in the rear at the parking area. And then 13 was for the fencing, which is typically seen in this fashion throughout the district. So that as a whole kind of is the plan overall. Are you able to pull up the PowerPoint for me?
It's here. Okay, everyone, you want to go up there?
Great, thank you. So also, in regards to the conditions from the staff report, we did include a packet with a material palette that I can pull up for you here. Sorry, it might be a little slow. So this is for the brick at the front. The intention was to do brick on the piers that are seen on the front of the porch. For the decking, we were looking at a TimberTech type composite decking. And then, of course, the siding throughout is hardy siding, hardy plank siding with a smooth finish. And then with their trim throughout, their trim profiles are shown there. For windows, we were looking at a PGT type vinyl window. And then on the elevations, it shows the 3/1 style of windows that we were looking for. And then moving along for the tongue and groove soffit, we were looking at materials such as Synergy wood for that, as well as the ceiling on the porch. And then for the front and rear doors, we were looking at Therma-Tru doors for that application. And those are full light doors that are shown on both the front and rear. And for the shingles, looking at something like a Timberline shingle for that. And I believe that that is the end of the materials palette. And then overall, I know there's the criteria list for what every project is weighed against in terms of the design guidelines. So put together a few quick slides to show our compliance with all of those parts and pieces. Adding a new building may be similar in height and width to buildings on adjacent sites. So our height overall is in alignment with the other buildings on the block, along with our width of our main portion of the building. Moving along, the massing of the building overall and our roof forms, again, the wraparound porch kind of matching the building around the corner on Amelia. And then our setbacks, we, again, to go back to our setbacks, are meeting the requirement for block averaging across the board on the block there. Orientation of the house on the site, especially in relation to where you enter the home. So seen here that we would be matching all of the other houses. So this is the entrance point for all of the houses. They do all come off of East Parkman, so our building does as well. And then rhythm and spacing, just making sure that our building is in alignment with that, which it is. No real offset there. And then materiality, maintaining materials within the district throughout. So we're maintaining brackets that are similar to our contributing structure that is next 2 houses away at 505 East Sparkman. Same with the railing. And then window trim, emulating the 601 East Sparkman contributing structure. And then as far as our front porch with the piers having brick on them with the lattice work in between. Again, emulating 505 East Sparkman. And then overall, just using details that are functional throughout, trim work and detail, paying homage to some of the older historical buildings. So I believe we are in alignment with those as well in terms of how the wraparound porch functions, and then also materiality throughout the elevation. Facade proportions and window patterns, again, matching up with the other buildings in the area overall. And then entrances and front porches, designing that with modern detailing, but keeping in mind to have the same first floor height. So again, as presented earlier, we are matching the first floor height with all of the other houses on the block. Roof forms, we are matching the gables that are seen throughout the neighborhood and some on the block in particular for some of the forms there. And then overall, just making sure to find something that was designed specifically for the site and with the community in mind. So I believe that was done as far as the house is designed specifically for the site, and all of the materiality kind of matches up with everything throughout our block in the district. So with that being said, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead with the staff report. Ms. Lund?
Thank you. Staff found that this application is consistent with the design guidelines for Tampa Heights. One thing I just wanted to clarify, I think that there was one condition that to verify that the window and door trim it was to not be flush with the siding. I think that was shown, but I think that was just maybe something you want to go back and take another look at just to verify that. With that, I have no other comments, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lund. Now open it for public comment. I don't think there's anyone in the public that wants to speak, but I'll ask anyone here want to speak for or against this project at this time. Seeing none, we'll move forward and close the public. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioners will ask questions at this time, starting on my right with Mr. Sutton.
Thank you very much. Sir, if you please, could you pull up your site plan for general discussion at this point?
Yes. And just to backtrack for 1 second, apologies on what Elaine said. I guess I was rushing and didn't hit the word "not" on flush. So the trim is proud of the siding on that. Yes, sir, on the site plan.
The first thing I would like to discuss with you is the nature of your proposed fence. I remember part of your presentation shows a short picket fence of a sort. Is this same design of fence to be around the entire perimeter, or are there going to be changes in heights, changes in materials, gates? Can you run that down for us, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll start and answer the best I can. I don't remember, and maybe Elaine can elaborate after I'm done, in terms of the design guidelines, I don't remember it calling out heights specifically. If it did, I apologize, I don't have that information at this point in time, but As far as gates, we were looking at, sorry, it's a little harder to see in terms of the drawing, but looking at a gate at each of the entry walkways. And then for the fence as a whole, it would maintain the height, which I believe for most of the houses was around 3 feet high. So that would be maintained for a majority of the property. And then if there is an allowable width for it to go up higher, I would see that being raised around the parking area just to kind of obscure the view of the cars on that rear part, which I know on the current property, that is how the fence runs, where it basically has a 3-foot height up until about the back of the structure, then I believe raises to about 6 feet on the rear half.
So for the most part, the fence is an aesthetic choice as opposed to something being more security related, because you're not having a gate on the backside on the alley for the parking access.
Right, oh, actually, sorry, I apologize. So the fence does go all the way around the back, and then I was showing.
Can you lift your drawing up just a little bit, because we can't see that? There you go. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So the fence does go, I am showing it going all the way around the property, and then showing a rolling gate at the parking area to provide privacy to that spot.
Thank you. For some reason, I had thought that the parking was going to be accessed off the alley. I understand the nature of creating a duplex here, which is an interesting proposal for boosting our housing stock, particularly here in this neighborhood. I am not going to get involved with how your client plans on marketing, renting, or selling this. But there's a couple items that that I think that might be worthy of consideration. Since people don't normally get to pick their neighbors, I find it a little bit disconcerting that, if you will, the nature of the parking and the nature of the AC and its location and screening becomes almost a shared asset between essentially two owners or two tenants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, have you all considered how this might be split up equitably so that there will be no squabbles?
Yeah, sure, for sure. You know, in terms of the AC, there would have to be an easement on the property to allow that to, kind of pass over what you would imagine being the property line dividing the two. In terms of placement for the units themselves, we looked at putting them over there only because of the visibility. Had one been on this side of the building, the visibility from your view corridor when you're walking down the street in particular.
The last time I would like to discuss, and if you could pull it up, would be a element of your front porch, and you could pull up your main elevation for the front of the building, please.
Yeah, sure.
Related to my prior question about the features of your rear yard, there's one element here that that dovetails into that, and that to me is the center column. I understand why it's here for the purposes of your building symmetry and your straight line for the whole thing. But have you all considered the possibility of not having that being, if you will, a shared element between the two different units, and instead having a column on either side of the stair? So you'd have one on your corners and then one on the left-hand or the right-hand side of the door at the stair?
Right, so you're essentially suggesting kind of one on either side like that versus in the middle. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. We could certainly lean towards that direction. I think to your point, you know, the way it is set up now was just kind of the balance of symmetry across the elevation as a whole.
And I see it as a point of contention between, again, you know, two unknown tenants, two unknown owners at this point in time. And being at this point, a place where we could massage a little bit of design work and not cause any heartache or headaches would perhaps be much to your advantage and much to your marketing as well.
Okay.
That is all I have for this moment.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Mr. Myers?
Since you've got the front elevation there, I just want to ask one question. Is there are the windows, then it seems as though there is there are corner boards, and then it steps back? Seems to be what the front elevation shows.
Here you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So in order to kind of break down the massing on that, we did project that second story out a little bit more so that it read a little bit better as a whole. Part of the design guidelines do kind of ask to have the massing broken down as much as possible, and kind of felt like when we originally put it together, when it did not have that there was a little bit too much kind of wall surface out on that front if it were to be one, you know, kind of larger gable on its own.
I guess I missed that on the plan.
Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I can go back and highlight that for you, it's no problem. Yep, so on the second floor here, if you'll see.
Okay, it's that, yeah.
Yeah,
Got it. All right, thank you very much.
sure, no problem.
That's a nice solution there. I thank you for a very complete presentation. Now, I'd just like to ask, what kind of trees are you removing on the street side of the?
Well, you know what, for as complete as I had everything, I don't know that I actually have the species of the trees in front of me. I do have an arborist report in general, but at this time, I don't have the species of the trees.
I feel like Dr. Seuss here, speaking for the trees. You're taking them all down. Well, okay, fine. I have no problems with that, but maybe you would keep a couple. And
They are keeping some of the original.
yeah,
Yeah. Just to make sure. It didn't sound like you did.
but they're taking all of them on that side.
Right, but.
They're too close to the house, and they're.
They are too close to the structure, but overall, one of the harder things probably to see on the presentation is that the sizing of the trees is called out. So overall, the trees that we are keeping on the property are the ones that are of the larger size in diameter.
Yes. Okay. And now I have, well, I actually have two more comments.
Yeah, sure.
And one is, this is just something to think about, because I think that, you know, an exemplary presentation here, that you would have a door that goes into the side of the wraparound porch. You have a window there kind of at the end of the stair.
Sure.
And then, and this is just a perhaps, and then the other thing is a window in the upstairs front bathroom,
Okay.
which is always a nice thing and would enliven your elevation a little bit. Again, not requirements. And with that, I'll close. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Neiman. I would echo, I appreciate the thoroughness of the presentation, and particularly your responsiveness to the staff's conditions and calling all of those out as you go through. It's really helpful to follow along how you've accepted those or made adjustments accordingly. I have two questions, starting, can you go back to the site plan?
Yes.
And I won't, my colleagues brought up the parking and the trees. I'd like to ask some further questions about both. So it wasn't here, actually. In one of your images, you showed how the parking, there were 4 spaces designated. How exactly are the occupants accessing? And then, yeah, so how is someone getting to 2 and 4 if someone's already at 1 and 3, or that's your
Yeah,
You're
so I
gonna fill
guess,
in 2 and 4 first, and,
no. So I guess the nature of it would be that, these would be designated for one unit while the bottom half are designated for the other. So, typical to your, say, regular single-family house, you have a single driveway. I pull in the driveway, my wife pulls in behind me. Just kind of the nature of having a driveway, one person has to pull out for the other to leave.
so that access is off, that's Central Ave.
Yes, so the access is off Central Ave, so adding a driveway apron there, to access through.
Okay, so one unit would have the driveway, if you will, closer to the structure, and the other unit would have the driveway, if you will, further away.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I think to my colleague's point, the notion of shared space that can be challenging, but understood what you've tried to do there. So my question then, if you could now go back to the site plan, is about the trees.
Yes.
I do find it problematic taking out every single one of the trees along Central Ave. Was there an option to preserve every other, or 1 or 2 of those? And I was also interested in what species those are, if they're all the same, if there was an opportunity to save 1 or 2 of the more specific species and take, and I understand you've got some proximity issues there, but.
Yeah, for sure. So there are varying species. In terms of keeping them, again, like you highlighted, proximity to the structure. One of the offsets we could look at, if you would find it agreeable, is in speaking with landscape architect on this portion of the property, which is larger than 10 feet. So the setback line here is shown at 7 feet, and then you got about another 7 to 8 feet here to the structure, so about 14 feet. There is the availability to plant new trees along there, and they would need a 10-foot radius from the trunk, which then they would have enough available space to go there. So we could definitely look at planting trees within that area. That's kind of why the structure is more or less kicked over the way it is, to allow for that availability should it be needed.
Thank you. You went exactly where I was going to suggest, to see if you would be, or if the applicant would be open to exploring the tree replacement, or some, not all of it, of course, wouldn't fit, but if some of it could be specified for that space. You're going to lose that other tree, I guess, also because you can't preserve the proper radius on the lower left.
Yes, correct.
So being able to dedicate some of the tree preservation on the site, I would certainly be in favor of that.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
sure, thank you.
So I have a few questions. We can stay on site for a minute.
Yeah.
If you can put that other one up next to it, the diagram you had of the parking, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, for sure.
Just alongside it. I know everybody loves it when I tell them I want things side by side. So there are a couple of things that were brought up by my colleagues, and I appreciate the concerns. Shared space is something we don't normally get into here, but historically, certainly there are properties with shared space. And I think people kind of learn how to live with one another. Certainly, there are issues, but as a board, we can't really bring that into a conditional response when we make a motion. But I do think from an architectural and site planning perspective, reconsidering the allocation of space at the rear where the parking spaces are. One of my concerns is that you've got the parking right up against both rear stair access ways. And so the availability of the most rear set of parking spaces, 3 and 4, being able to make true access to that stair for the rear occupant needs to be reconsidered with the placement of the 2 units. And one other thing I wanted to clarify is, you had talked about the fencing, and you weren't quite sure if you do all 3 or 4 feet, or maybe step up to a 6-foot. When you were talking about the rolling gate, you didn't talk about its architectural features. Is that something that's opaque? Does it have, is it metal, is it wood? What does it look like? We usually get an image if we don't get a drawing from you. Do you have something that it tells us what that's going to look like?
I do not. And then in terms of the height, again, like I said, did not necessarily see anything that dictated height, so was hesitant
The
to.
district doesn't dictate the height, only
Uh-huh.
that there are certain ways that we turn to buildings. So typically, if you're gonna do a lower one and then transition, you're gonna wanna keep the corner condition clear and free, because we try to let that be celebrated, right, a corner condition.
Sure.
So you can step up your height if you wanted to do that and offer that to whomever is gonna live here, right? But if indeed you are screening the entire property and it's opaque and you have landscaping, you don't need the additional fencing around those units. So just reconsider the placement of them and whether or not you really need the fencing there, and allow for more comfort for the occupants to get from parking spots 3 and 4 to
Okay.
those rear stairs.
Sure.
That to me is more about the idea of community and making place. So just letting your architecture and your features do that. We'll discuss the column in the front thing, but we can balance that, and as a board, we'll discuss that feature. But I am of an opinion that no matter if you have a column there or not, they're gonna fight over the railing. So one thing or the other. Then if we could go to, you talked about turf block at the new parking area. There was also in your palette walkthrough, it noted semi-pervious sidewalk. Can you talk about what that means? What is that material?
It's just concrete that, basically allows the water to drain through. Part of what we were looking at on the site is, from a stormwater aspect, is, once you get to a 50% or more, over 50% coverage, then it triggers the need for water retention on the site as a
Understood.
whole. So that was one of the offsets.
I'm trying to
was to
understand the
do-
material choice. You said a concrete that lets the water through. What is that product?
I don't have a specific manufacturer for it, I apologize.
I'm not familiar with it, so. And then, so we talked about the fencing and consideration for that transition. The windows, are they going to have divided lights, true divided lights, or, because you had windows in there with buttons shown?
Right. Yep.
So what are those?
So as a request, it was, windows with divided lights should have the buttons on the exterior and interior in between the glass. So that, is the intention of that.
Can you show me your window cut sheet again?
Sure. I will be honest, I don't know how to get back to that. Ron, sorry. Thank you, I appreciate it. So I'm not sure if specifically what you're looking for is going to be in here.
So you're going with a double hung, correct?
Yes, correct.
And then if you scroll down, I can't remember where it was. You actually scrolled through it so quickly
Oh.
last time, and maybe to the top then.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So that, these are just the windows, as a whole, kind of their whole line of windows.
Maybe it was here.
Yeah, so that's the glass options and some of the grid styles
So
that are in there.
they show the grid styles. Do they talk about how they're actually applied? If there's- Right here, right here.
Yeah, so grid between the glass.
So this was why the staff had questioned that they would be applied the exterior, interior, and in between the glass. Here it says they'll be applied between the glass. We just need to make sure that when you move through the process of selecting and ordering, that you are covering that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think one of the reasons why it came up was because this material palette was not in the what staff reviewed.
Well,
originally,
even
so.
with this, it doesn't state interior and exterior covers.
Okay,
So
yeah.
we would want to see that.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. And then in addition to that, you mentioned they'd be vinyl windows. Is that vinyl covered?
I believe it's vinyl clad, yes.
Okay, and then what's the backing material?
Metal, I believe.
Is it aluminum or is it wood?
Believe it's aluminum, yes.
It might have been below that. Okay, but vinyl clad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the doors were just full light, no muttons, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. That is it for my questions. Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Yes.
Chair, excuse me, I have one more about the parking, if you can return to the site plan.
Yes.
And I'm interested in looking at it, so you're sitting on an alley. Was there consideration for accessing your parking slab from the alley?
Yes, there are quite a few drawbacks to that. One being, essentially, you can't get the parking to fit within it. And then also the other part is that the alley itself at this current point in time is not in use. So it would need to be improved for the entirety of the alley, but as far as the alley currently sits, it is not necessarily a viable option. So as Elaine showed, currently there's no real curb cut there for the alley, no paved material. This just happens to have a portion of the curb missing. And then as we scroll through, so the fence on the left is the end kind of bordering of our property. You can see there's a fence beyond. I apologize, not allowing me to scroll through all my images here.
That's okay.
We have brought this to the attention of some of the people in zoning. A vast majority of the houses on the further end, about 4 houses away from ours and down to the end, have built structures into the alley. So this one in particular is from the other block, but then on the left-hand side here, you'll see there's a full, essentially accessory garage structure that's been built into the alley. So that would again be kind of one of the drawbacks is disrupting the entirety of the neighborhood to improve the alley all the way through just for the alley access. So this is the opposite end of the alley. This person has kind of fully encompassed it with a carport and built into that as well.
So thank you for the information. I think I just find that incredibly problematic unless there's been vacates done or recorded, which
Yeah,
can be the case, but.
I did reach out to ask if the alley had been vacated, so, to see if that was a possibility where we could avoid, kind of the overarching thing of redoing the entirety of the alley. But that was not the case. So like I said, I did bring that up to,
Yeah, I'm not encouraging. I actually have in much more support for the restoration and use of the alleys, and that's a trend, and I would defer to staff's take on where we've ended up with the Tampa Heights ruling on the use of alleys in the case where they're useful. Obviously, there's many challenges to this alley, but I think that's a flaw that the city is letting these valuable assets called our alley access ways sort of fall behind on their
Yes, for sure.
maintenance, for sure. So I appreciate that. I understand the challenge you have with it. I just would reiterate the design as you have it, and it's, obviously you've got some space constraint, but you'll now have those occupants pulling in, backing out, swapping cars in and out of Central Ave. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that there could not be a more viable way to use the alley, which was its intended purpose. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers, did you have a question?
I just wanted to ask for some clarification, and either staff or agent can answer this. This property is not subdividable. In other words, this is a duplex and it will always remain under one owner. Is that correct?
I'm not particularly sure on that as a whole, but yes, I believe that is the case.
Staff, do you know anything about this?
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. No, I do not. I would say that would be up to the owner whether or not they want to subdivide the parcel.
But I thought it was 60 feet wide, is that correct?
The lot itself,
Yeah.
it is 56 feet wide, just shy of 57 feet wide.
Just a reminder that it does have the zoning of RM24, which means that it has the multifamily overlay.
Yes.
Okay.
Dana Crosby, call you from the legal office. I wouldn't know the response to your particular question, but I was going to suggest the same thing. It's a multifamily zone parcel.
Right, so there can be a duplex there,
Yes.
but it cannot have two owners, or it cannot be subdivided.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
It could be a mini condominium.
We really can't get into that as a board.
Oh.
We're only here, we can only respond to what the facts we have, so we can't make suppositions and all of that. Just want to be cautious about
Oh, yes.
our approach here.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Nope. So you have 5 minutes for rebuttal. If there's anything you'd like to say in response to anything that's been brought up or that you may have forgotten that you wanted to add in, you have that time now.
Nope, I thank you very much, I appreciate it. I think that we had great conversation back and forth, got all your feedback, and I'm all set. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and we'll discuss the case. Yes, sir.
I have a continuing concern with the nature of shared spaces. We typically see them in larger redevelopments and larger parcels where we have, multiple units. And those larger projects tend to have fairly well thought out common areas, common space relationships. I'm not commenting directly with this project for this point. What I am saying is that we are going to see more and more and more of these small-scaled infill projects, these duplexes, these quadplexes, and they will all have some manner of the shared space conundrum that needs to be resolved. And that's something that's not really accommodated within our district's plans. And I think it needs to be cognizant on the part of the board as well as staff that these things need to be well thought out with as part and parcel of how do you arrange what you want to do on a particular site. We're just gonna see more of this, and I don't want it to cause a problem for anyone. And it has its own sticky problems. You know, as a younger man, smaller apartment buildings and living right out of college, the shared space issue was always, a point of contention, either on, a point of contention on one side or a nice living condition on the other side, dependent entirely upon the people that you have around you.
Right.
Okay, we don't have a way of judging this, and I think that there's a certain degree of forethought that needs to be brought into the process that the applicant and their designers need to bring forward. And I just bring it up because it is such a different way of looking at how a small parcel gets developed that it escapes a lot of attention.
And there are various ways to deal with that, obviously, but barring putting up, dividing walls on the porch and other things, I think what you see historically in the districts, I can't quite think of a case within this district, but knowing some of the other districts, you still see wide open porches that are shared within duplexes, and a lot of them are shotguns. I can think of some in Ybor City myself. And they share the spaces, and certainly I'm sure there've been clashes over the history of these homes, but architecturally, that's what we're here to speak to. What does the district tell us? What does the guideline say that we should, massage and help the designs move forward? I think architecturally it's there. Certainly they could look at placing a column either side of each of the stairs, and maybe that frames that opening in a way that maybe feels a little bit more shared, certainly. I think the column where it's placed forcefully states this side is yours and this side is mine. So we could have the argument about which is the better solution. I don't know that it's something that we need to.
No, I don't think it's something
Push
that we need to
forward here
discuss.
tonight.
It's just a point that they have an option to consider.
Yeah.
I think it all depends upon how this project moves forward and how they bring it to market. Because, once upon a time, the duplexes, the fourplexes were the cheap way to get into the
Oh,
neighborhood.
absolutely.
Okay, this is now high-value material we're dealing with here. And that's in an entirely different economic situation.
The
And that's,
bigger-
again, beyond us.
The bigger problem, honestly, is gonna be the parking. Living in a historic neighborhood myself, it's not a designated district, but I have plenty of neighbors in my neighborhood that share drives that are historic, that are narrower than what is in the new, and they have issues. So, certainly, the comment that I made, please reconsider your design and think about how people move and all of that. I think there definitely are valid concerns, and we've talked before about how the guidelines need to start thinking, maybe, there's some massaging in the guidelines within all the districts to really reconsider what's going on in our contemporary living situations. The fact that we have larger cars, certainly we'd love to see them disappear, but that's just not the reality.
The accessory dwelling.
Right, the ADUs coming into play and all of that, but that's probably a workshop thing that we've been talking about for years that we haven't had, that we should probably have. Now that I'm leaving the board, I'm just gonna start ramming it. But anyways, I think these are all great considerations. I just, don't think that it's probably something we need to push on this little project.
I agree.
I do think that the tree thing was a great conversation. We've had those before, and I appreciate you bringing it back up, because with all of the things that have changed in this state over the years, and just our tree canopies have been the things that have won us many awards in the past as, one of America's 100 beautiful cities. We certainly want to see that, especially in our historic districts, the tree canopy be retained as much as possible, and if not, be replaced with calipers of a quality and a size, the tree species are quality and the size is appropriate to restore that as quickly as possible. And then, of course, the alley discussion, that's also one of my pet peeves, and I'm sure staff knows that too. I actually have a Facebook page dedicated to it, if you haven't seen it. Anyway, I appreciate the background for your particular situation. It's interesting what people do over time when people aren't watching. That happened in my neighborhood, and now that everybody's buying into my neighborhood and tearing everything down, we're discovering all kinds of things. So we too have alleys that were not properly vacated and people have built into. But appreciate the fact that you did run that down and could come to the table and explain all of that for us. So, and I do want to commend you as well for the presentation. I actually want to make you the poster child, and maybe you work with staff and you have like workshops with people coming behind you, because it was really well done and you had your notes ready to go, and it was just a beautiful thing to witness. So thank you for that. Other than all that commentary, is there anything that we should discuss for this project as we consider a motion?
I agree with all that you said, and I'm prepared to support the project. I just had a question about where we ended up with the gate, the rolling gate, and whether that would become a condition or it would be eliminated or asked to be eliminated, or where we would end up with that.
I think the matter of what's happening with the fence, its detailing, its heights, gates, is very schematic at this point in time. But there is a general indication that the general thinking is appropriate for what we see here in our neighborhood. It's definitely not a chain link fence, it's a picket of some sort. I personally think that there's not enough information for us to say this is exactly how it's going to look or run or work. But I don't have a problem with moving this off as an item to be coordinated with staff.
I think as long as we're a little clear about where we want to see it go, because for me personally, a large rolling gate, single gate, if it's not appropriately detailed to diminish its size, is something we really need to consider, because within the historic districts, we wouldn't see a double car gate. We would see a single. And so just like we do the garages, I do think we need to put it into the record for staff as they follow along, that there are certain things that we think should be considered. One is whether or not the fence should change in height, whether it should return to the building if it does so, and then, the gates.
I'm thinking that it would have to cover the entirety of the feature, the whole perimeter.
Well, that's completely up to them. They're not required to. No one's required to put a fence in, but.
But if they're going to have one, they need to coordinate with staff.
Absolutely.
Is it within our purview to direct that there not be a gate? Take it the other way, which is, along Central Ave, and with already the tightness of the configuration and the vehicles moving in and out, none of us particularly care for the parking setup, but it strikes me that a gate further complicates it. And it makes a fortress sort of feel along Central Ave, maybe unnecessarily. So I just don't know if that's our appropriate purview.
I don't know that we can't say they can't have it, but if they do have it, because code doesn't allow us to and even the district guidelines don't say you can't have one. I think we have to be very clear about what we're looking for if we're going to let staff take it from here. Is that the only issue? I think
That's
so.
the only one I really have. I think overall, the form, the massing, the detailing, the materiality is right up there. It just pegs it.
I agree. So can we entertain a motion at this time? And if so,
I only want to throw one thing
Okay.
into the discussion here, and that is that both their trees and their parking scheme has already been approved, by natural resources and by zoning, and so I don't think we have any say over that, other than, you know, the power of suggesting.
The discussion piece about the parking, I didn't redirect on how to design their parking. I said reconsider your location of
Right.
your units, your mechanical units, and how people use that space back there. So it wasn't like, I wasn't saying redesign your parking.
Right,
And
but-
that's the only piece that transportation has purview over. So I didn't,
No, I wasn't.
Oh, okay, okay,
There was,
okay. I wanna be clear.
there was a
Okay.
lot of complaint about stacked parking,
yeah,
and we have a lot of stacked parking.
yeah.
But relative to the trees, I was hoping to direct that into the conditions, that there would be as much on-site replacement to the maximum amount achievable in concert with the natural resources team, that it actually go back and
Yeah.
rethink that.
But I think that they have certain regulations, and I think they're already being followed. The agent seemed to have stated that in his presentation.
Correct. But I think this, sitting in this seat, we're asking that they reconsider that, and that the applicant and the agent seem to concede that they would explore that as an option.
So the thing,
Well,
But
that
that,
would be a
but I don't think,
condition.
but I, that's not a condition, though.
it
Right.
can
I
be,
would-
yes,
I
it
would
can
wanna
be,
make
and
it one.
I'll explain why, because when he went through the whole thing and he had the little chart,
Mm-hmm.
it showed the calipers of the trees they were removing. By the city ordinance, there is a tree bank that you have to like either pay into, or you replace the trees on your property. So, they are following it, and right now it seems like they're more than willing to pay into the bank, but we've asked them to reconsider it, and that's all we can do is say, please reconsider the direction you're taking, and reconsider adding some trees with some caliber. We don't have to say the number, but just that there are trees that are of ample caliber to rebuild the tree canopy in a
And we can make that a condi.
We can
say,
word that,
Please
yes.
reconsider.
But we cannot tell them the caliper, and we can't tell them the spacing. We can only say, please
To the extent
reconsider.
that it's achievable
Right.
on the space, as he described it on the
Correct.
record, and I think showed
I think that there
opportunity
are,
for it.
and again, I'm speaking, you know, I wish our landscape architect were here.
Right.
But I think that you can cut some things down depending on the species. So that doesn't, you know, so it's
Yes, you-
not inch by inch, but it
you
has
can.
to.
It
yeah, you
is,
can
it
cast-
is, but there are also non-native species, if they're of a certain caliper, they then become a cannibal pieces of property. And you either have to replace them or put some money into the tree bank by ordinance.
Okay.
So it's not just the species, it's the caliber.
And the number
Dynamic.
of, it's a combination.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so they are complying by accepting their obligation to either have a combo of replacement off-site or pay into the tree fund. And I would state as a condition or for consideration that some of those replacements, that they replace on-site to the extent achievable in that space.
Along the-
As was,
along
yes,
the
along
west
the
edge of
Central
the
Avenue
property.
site.
Yep.
Okay.
So who would like to make a motion at this time? One, two, three.
I move to grant a certificate. Let me see if I got this thing right. Yes, of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 23-161 for the property located at 501 East Sparkman Avenue, Tampa Heights Historic District, with the following conditions: that one, the proposed fence be, as a design, be finalized and coordinated with staff with specific regard to its, a particular height, its run, changes in height, the nature of the gates and their operation. And number two, that to the extent possible along Central Avenue, that the applicant and the owner add to the existing tree canopy to mitigate tree removal as proposed.
Second.
I need to
Before
think-
we vote up or down, would you mind coming to the microphone again, sir?
I need to finish this.
Oh, do you need to finish it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
you
I'm
do need to
sorry.
Wait,
No,
he needs,
second.
you can stay there though for just
I
one second.
withdraw my second.
He needs to, he needs to finish the statement. Sorry, go ahead.
Because based on the finding of fact that the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines and the City of Tampa, Chapter 27 governing those guidelines, and the Historic District for Tampa Heights,
For the following reasons. You have to
for the following reasons. The proposed development is consistent with the expectations for massing, height, coordination with other adjacent properties, as well as for the materiality commonly found within the district.
Now may I have a second?
Second.
And before we do an up-down, do you understand the conditions put forth here tonight in the case?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand indicating so.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. We'll move on to the second case.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Our next agenda item is ARC 23-472 for the address of 712 South Edison Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. There is a contributing structure on site, which is the primary structure that dates back to 1922. The zoning attached to the parcel is RS 60. The request in front of you this evening is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for an accessory structure with site improvements. The accessory structure will comply with the zoning code and be held within the 900 square foot total for the zoning classification. This is looking at the Hyde Park Historic District completely. The outlining red indicates the local boundaries. The blue is for the national district. Property in question is circled just to give you a sense of place within the district in whole. This is looking at the 1929 Sanborn map. Property in question is highlighted in green. It's an internal lot. It does face Edison. To the south, you have Inman. To the north, you have Swan. And there is an alley that runs north and south behind the subject site, but will not be part of the request. The circulation will come in from Edison, which is the primary street, down the drive aisle that's existing. This is looking at the primary structure. It's a really unique structure. The rock that is there was claimed out of the Hillsborough River and used as the base. This is the front elevation. As we move around to the front elevation and the south elevation, you see the wraparound porch that's partially screened. Looking down the vehicular access off of Edison, there no change at this portion at the front. Looking at the north elevation, you see the podium is encompassed with that brick, a very heavy base to it. And then up top, there is a shake shingle up here on the second floor. So you have the stone with frame above. Looking down the primary street, this is looking to the south towards Bayshore Boulevard. The other direction to the north towards Swan. You see Wilson in the background. Going to the rear elevation, I wanted to focus up top. You see in the gable ends, they have some shake shingles up there. You see the larger barge rafter. You see the incorporation of the brackets that are there. And this is in the rear yard. On the Sanborn map, this was the location of the secondary structure, which is the accessory structure. It was right on the pipeline. To meet today's code, they're bringing it in slightly. And just the condition of the alley There's a lot of alley discussion through preservation and the retainment of the alleys. That's very important for vehicular circulation, although this request is not using it, but you see here that it serves a purpose for other people to come into their accessory structures and for solid waste pickup as well. That concludes the photo presentation. At this time, the agent will address the board.
Thank you, Mr. Vila.
Hello, I'm Lane Marie, I'm the authorized agent, and I feel a little nervous coming up after the poster child that was just up here, but I will try.
You can be the poster
I
child for
will
accessory structures, sir.
Okay, thank you. We did just have an article written about this house by the Tampa Bay Times, I don't know if you saw it. And it talked about the rocks and the material and how this home and another church are really the only two structures made of this unique material in Tampa. So this is the accessory structure, and here's our project is located, as Ron just said. I think we need to scoot back a little. Is that, can you see that? So here's the site plan. So as Ron said, we're basically not going to touch these front concrete pads, and we are going to put the accessory structure in here. We've changed it and modified it a little bit since the last time we were here. We actually shrunk the structure itself a little bit to better fit in this space, and to make sure that we were matching this eave to eave distance and setback that was required. We are going to have to do a little bit of site work here. We're very close to the finished floor elevation of 12 feet, but I'll show you on the next page that we are a little bit lower than where we need to get, which is to have the finished floor elevation at that 12 feet. We will have to bring in a little bit of fill, and that was something that we talked about last time, and I think we perfected that plan a little bit. So of the property up to 11.6 feet, because our slab will be 4 inches tall. And you can see the elevations here circled in red is what we have in this existing back corner. So we will need to bring in about a foot of fill, and we will also be doing a few other site improvements that we kind of solidified and made better since the last time. So there is an existing brick pathway here, which we will be moving. So that will make this access point when construction happens a little bit easier. Another thing that we talked about last time was this fence that does go off of this property line, and I have a picture of that here. Although we don't plan on altering the fence at all, we will remove these sections during construction and then reposition them on the property line and go inside the existing tree in order to make anything that might come up during the building permit copacetic. So we'll be removing this fence to be able to access this back corner and then reinstalling it. We'll be removing these pavers, as I said. There is an existing gate right here to the alley that will remain. In order to bring this fill in, to raise the BFE to the 12 feet that we need, we will be removing this concrete pad right here and these existing pavers in order to about this line, as per the engineer, in order to get this graded as we need it, and then we'll re-pour this slab here so that you'll be able to enter the garage, and that slab will end at about 1 inch underneath the garage floor. So the rest of the grading will occur this way off the property, and then all water and all of the flow will be directed back down this front driveway off the property, not into the alley or the neighbor. And I have some pictures this time. We are, for the impervious to pervious, the existing is like 42%, and we're going to 48% with this. You'll see in the photos that I have, there is a concrete slab back here, and it almost covers this whole area. So the pervious to impervious is fine. I think just by shrinking this structure entirely, which was the board's suggestion last time, it just fits a little better into this space and onto the property. And again, it was important to us for this structure with the material choice and the siding, and to kind of just make this secondary to this beautiful home and not detract from it in any way, because this home is very special, and it's important to us that it stays preserved and stays kind of at the forefront of this. So the new accessory structure is 774 square feet. The first floor is just the garage, which is 387, and then the second floor is the same square footage, 387. So here again are the elevations. Like I said, we're very close to where we need to be, and they vary throughout the property. But by bringing in fill and grading this way, and then again this way, and you can see on this site plan that this already is all concrete. So it almost looks like something was there previously. This was something that came up last time, and we wanted, so again, we've shrunk the building a little bit so that we can meet this roof to roof overhang setback. So this is the main home, and this dotted line is the overhang of the main home, which is 2 feet 6 inches. And then on the accessory structure, we mimicked that large overhang with a 2-foot overhang, and we are right at the 5-foot eave to eave setback between the building and the main home. This is an elevation view of that, and you can see that the roof lines on both structures don't kind of come close or in the same plane. So last time it was a concern, and I wanted you to know that we've addressed that by, again, shrinking this and making sure that we are going to meet that eave to eave setback. Because of the flood zone that we're in, we have to meet that 12-foot base flood elevation. So we are making sure that we're meeting that by bringing in the fill, and then up to the 11-foot-6 elevation, and then this concrete slab will be a 4-inch concrete slab. We also moved the location of the mechanical unit from the back here to the side yard, so we would be pouring a slab for that as well. So this new concrete slab is the 4-inch thick slab over a 6 milliliter vapor barrier on the compacted grade and termite treated soil. And this will slope away from the rear, so towards the front of the house. This is the floor plan for the first floor, which is just going to be used as a garage space. So the front of the property is here. We decided to do an internal stairwell and frame out a little closet area in the back. But this is just mainly to be used as a garage storage space or parking if the person who purchases the home wants to use it as such. This is the second floor plan. It's just really designed as a flex space right now. There's no bedroom or necessary bedroom. It's open living space. There is a small bathroom, and a closet, and again, the stairs are interior. One other change that we did make from last time was to move this set of windows center on this wall. We had it kind of off-center back here, but I think it was a good idea to center it so we have some consistency and symmetry from that outside elevation. So this is the west elevation. Our roof pitch is 12.4. We added this gable vent detail, which you can find on the main structure. And we are going to use 5.5-inch smooth hardy board trim for the window casings. And then we added this 2-inch window sill detail at the bottom, which is found in on the main home as well as many other historic homes in the neighborhood. We did decide to make the shake part of this design. I think it's something that we brought from the main home because we can't use the rock. I think it's a nice tie-in and back so that this has some kind of symmetry and look that matches the main home. We decided to go with an 8-inch smooth hardy board siding. And another thing that came up last time was the size of this middle wood trim piece, which we did shrink and is double the size of this siding. We are adding a new carriage style garage door and again, the trim, and the siding is the 8-inch smooth hardy board siding with a 5.5-inch smooth hardy board trim at the corners. Again, we mimicked this open rafter tail design from the main home and made sure that we have the overhang that matches the main structure as well. This is the west elevation, and this is the view down the driveway here. So,
Can you pull your drawing up just a little bit so
Yeah.
we can see the bottom of the elevation? Thank you.
yes, is that better? So,
Yes, thank you.
yeah, so this is looking down the driveway, so this is where we will be. It looks like it's asking for it, if you ask me. So again, I mentioned the fencing is in great condition. We will need to remove parts of it in order to get construction done and bring in trucks and fill and stuff. And we plan on removing it and reinstalling it. So there would be no change to this shadow box style fence that we have. This is the south elevation. So we'll be using an architectural asphalt shingle, which will match the main home. Again, we pulled this hardy board siding to replicate the look on the upper story of the home that's existing, and went with this globe light fixture that is on the front porch of the main home. Our roof peak height is at 21 feet 9 inches, and we do have an approved design exception. We moved the mechanicals from behind the house on the alley side into the side on this south elevation, sorry, so that it was meeting the setback. Here is that same elevation that I just showed with pictures of the existing. So our new mechanical will be right here. This is the east elevation. So this is the view from the alley. And this is looking from the existing. This is an existing shed that will be removed. Before I mentioned the fencing and the tree, that's the tree right on the line. So again, we'll remove this and bring it in front of this tree. This brick pathway will stay, and then this extension will be removed. This is kind of how it will look from the alley. And this is what the neighbor will see. This is the north elevation. Here is our roof plan. We have a pretty simple gable roof with, again, you're gonna be using the architectural shingle as the roof covering, and that will match the main home. So hopefully with that tie-in and the shake, they will look like cousins. Here's a photo of the existing shake on the main home, and this is the hardy board shake siding that we plan on using, and this is the tone of the shingle that will match here with this weathered wood. It's the same color. Also, with the rafter tails, we will use the same scale when we create those on the accessory structure. Those were made from 2x6s, and then we'll use tongue and groove in the soffit to match this existing. Here is the wall section. One of the things that we changed was to frame the walls with 2x6s instead of 2x4s in order to allow for the window to be set back and to include that wood sill. Here is the footing detail. Again, our grade level is represented by this line. Here is our 12-inch fill. And then our 4-inch concrete slab. Here's the material list. So the asphalt shingle, the overhang will match the existing with the exposed rafter tails that will be painted. We're gonna use the smooth hardy board lap siding, which will be 8 inches with an 8-inch reveal. The hardy shake shingle on the second floor, and the foot and 4-inch PVC hardy board for the continuous trim band. All the trim will be the 5.5-inch hardy smooth finish. We're gonna do the aluminum clad single hung JELD-WIN brand windows, and the buttons will be on the exterior to match the existing. We chose a Craftsman style door for the side and a carriage style garage door, which will be painted white. And again, the sconces will be the globe style to match what's on the front porch of the home. Here are the windows, which are a good scale for this structure, and again, match the main home. So those are single hung aluminum clad wood windows, and the muttons will be on the exterior and pull from the main home. We're going to be using this Craftsman style steel in-swing door, and here is the hardware. It's a black Baldwin exterior door hardware. Here's the carriage style garage door we selected. It's a 10-foot door, and that will be painted the same color as the main home. And here's the globe style exterior light. I think I've gone through all of the materials. I wanted again mention that we made this smaller so that it fits better on the property and that we can still meet this eave to eave distance between the two roofs. So this is the main structure and this is what we're proposing. The roof overhangs do meet code all the way around, and the fencing will be removed and reinstalled. So the changes that we did were shrinking the footprint, changing the siding for a better scale. We moved the windows on the south elevation. We framed the walls in with 2x6s to allow for the windows to be set back and recessed. And we moved the mechanicals to a better location. I think that's it.
Okay, we'll move on to the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for an accessory structure with site improvements. Under the conditions on page 3 and 4, the agent addressed all the items, and I'm here to assist if there's any questions that I could answer. So that completes my portion of this presentation.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask the question, but I know there's nobody in the audience because I think that's distance.
He's gonna say he's for it.
Would you like to come forward and speak for or against this project?
I'm gonna do it.
All right, we'll go ahead and ask questions then, starting on my left. with
Great,
Commissioner
thank
Post.
you.
You're welcome.
Very good presentation.
Thanks.
Terrific.
Don't be too
And,
hard on me.
as with the past, I think there's great appreciation for the thoroughness and the responsiveness to staff's conditions and pointing those out, so thank you for that. I have 3 questions and a comment. I was not present for the prior discussions. Can you just tell me what, for the DE1, what was the additional height? How far off standard? I'm just curious.
You comment.
Yeah.
You take this one, Ron.
So for the City of Tampa code requirements, with anywhere within the City of Tampa, accessory structures are held from grade to the ridge at 15 foot in height. There's flexibility within the historic districts, so it could go to 22 and a half, and that's something that we review with the zoning department, and as presented, it was approved. So this was already routed. When the applications come forward, we try to get that moving because it could run concurrently. This one, because it was continued a couple of times, already received the approval. Sometimes it's a condition of the final approval.
So
But
it's
this one
going
has
up-
already been vented.
Thank you, Ron. It's going up to what height? 22?
21 and 9 inches.
Got it, thank you. Can you, thank you, Ron. Can you speak just a moment about this circumstance with the tree and the fence in the back? So you're,
I can, because
moving
you
the-
weren't here, there was some fence drama.
and the tree is going to end up outside the fence?
Your board didn't like that, and I get it. The fence is a little bit funky, because it goes off the property line into the alley. So,
So you're straightening out the fence, but it will leave the tree outside the fence, but still on the property?
I mean, we can, we either
don't-
we either not touch this, or we take it down and move it in, which is awkward because the tree is there.
Can you use your pen to fill in the circle that represents that oak tree? Because I think it looks like a pole from the fence, so
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I
so
can
that.
see.
It's this one.
I don't
Yeah,
want
there you
to,
go.
I don't want to have to rehash what's apparently been hashed. Only, just maybe a question around then, often quite familiar with how the alleys are used and maintained, or sometimes not well maintained, and a tree, I don't know the size or scale of it, if it's large enough tree outside the fence will tend to fall into a lack of maintenance. So is it not on the property line?
The tree
I
is
mean, it's
right
not
on
on
the
the property,
line.
it's-
It's right on the line. And so I think when the fence was put in, I don't think I know. Well, they
Okay.
had to pick one side, and
And
so
the
they picked.
preference, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, the preference of the commission was to move, to leave, put the tree outside the fence?
It was not a matter of where the fence needs to be. The discussion was about bringing up the point where this fence was going to have to be partially removed and/or rebuilt and reinstalled to gain access for the purposes of construction. That none of the details of what that was actually going to be like were part of that process, or was part of that presentation. So what the board asked to do was to come back with sufficient information as to outline what is happening with the fence.
So you're seeing this now for the first time?
In this level of
notion that the
detail,
tree-
correct.
okay. I would find that problematic, that the fence will move in. I presume you're sort of solving one problem by making sure the fence is appropriately on the property line versus off of it, which is a problem, but leaving the tree, of that type of tree outside the property, outside the fence, I think leaves an open issue as to who's responsible for the tree, how it's maintained, and it ends up growing and getting in the way of the solid waste trucks. And so we can discuss it as we come back to that. So I appreciate the details about how that ended up the way you're proposing it. And my last question is about the window symmetry. This is not necessarily my lane. It's, I think, one of my colleagues, but you have what appears to be nice symmetry on all but one side. Is there a reason why you didn't complete the symmetry on the fourth side?
Just because on that side is a bathroom and a vanity, so. Also, it's this is the
Yeah.
side that's adjacent to the neighbor, so.
Right, okay. Okay, and just a comment, being familiar with these neighborhoods, and it sounds like, notwithstanding this is a small-ish construction, bringing in fill, and just a friendly reminder of the courtesy and of the logistics and the timing of all of that activity, not just with the neighbors, but with solid waste and others, that sometimes creates quite a log jam and
Yes,
is problematic. So thank you.
yes.
That's it.
Can I respond about the tree and the fence?
Sure.
Because, I mean, I think the first time, I have to help build this. So what I would say is that I wasn't going to plan on touching any of this. If it's there, it's there. So, I mean, I think we're happy to do whatever the board wants, and I wouldn't have even brought it up because I think this is something that will be addressed in the building permit. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Myers?
When we have our talk about the project, the commissioners together, we will talk about the material choice on the outside. So I'm just going to ask you, because I know that I should only ask you questions and not opine at this point, if you would be willing to eliminate the horizontal siding on the lower part and just do the cedar-looking shingles all the way down.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, it's very subjective, so, I mean, this one's tough. I want to respect this beautiful rock house, and I want to pull something from it, but, I mean, there's no horizontal siding anywhere, so I would be open to that, if that's what the board recommends.
Thank you.
Mr. Sutton.
I have no question.
So I want to go back to the elevation that doesn't have symmetry. Can you put the floor plan back up and the elevation next to it?
Yes.
So I'm gonna make you fold papers too.
That's fine. It's your job. For the second floor?
So I'm not worried about the symmetry, but I do feel like it
second
needs
floor?
another opening. Can you put the elevation, you can like
But you wanna see the
rotate
second
the
floor?
plan
Yeah.
so that that's there and then put the elevation above it, I guess. They're the same scale?
Yeah, no, maybe not, because it was,
Can you also zoom out?
do you want to see the second floor,
Can that zoom out more?
floor plan?
I want to see the second floor plan and the elevation on the other side, facing the neighbor.
Got it, got it, got it.
Because we're talking about your bathroom. So, we're gonna talk lady stuff here. Do you put your makeup on and you love natural light, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I know there's guys that also do things with their faces. And we also just love daylight.
Humans,
Yeah,
humans.
just human beings love daylight. And so historically, we accommodate that in these older homes with smaller, higher lights, right, windows. Sometimes they're fixed, sometimes they're operable. I just feel like this elevation needs another opening. And I don't think you can make it centered like the other elevations, but I think there needs to be due consideration for another opening, more than likely over your water closet, because I don't think you want to get into the shower.
I mean, I've done that, though. I actually could get behind that, because that would give us, right?
Just reconsidering adding
Right.
another opening, and it could be a smaller, higher opening to deal with the privacy issue, but you have other ways to deal with that too, right, with
Okay.
films and
Right,
things
yeah,
like that.
privacy glass.
Just study it, reconsider it.
Okay.
If you're willing to do that, that would be lovely.
Yeah. I mean, I would put windows everywhere, but they cost money, and
Oh,
so.
yeah. And then you have to deal with the opening.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I know. And that's really my only comment
Okay.
or question. Yeah. All right. Any other questions for the applicant or staff at this time? No? So you do have 5 minutes for rebuttal. You can add anything in here that you want. Oh, I do have one more question before we go. So you showed us all these things, and you talked about how you're going to remove some paving and add it in and do this with the walk. Do you actually have a site plan that shows what it's gonna look like when you're done?
No, I mean, I would have that for the building permit, but I don't have that at
So
this time.
typically, we have those here too. So we like to know what's existing, what you're removing, but then we also like to see what it's gonna look like at the end. Because a lot of us are architects and
Right.
visual, but then there are others who aren't. And then there might be people in the audience,
Right.
maybe
I mean,
even at home, who don't get it.
So this one pretty much does reflect what the site plan would look like at the end. This shows this brick walkway that we're removed. And again, there isn't a huge change because we are gonna remove these and then reinstall them after construction is over.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't hear that part. And then how are you dealing with the man door coming out? You're just coming out on grass?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
The man door that's coming out, the pedestrian door, as you called it?
Um,
That's coming out of the garage on the bottom end of the garage?
yeah, that probably would need this, at least a little bit of a landing.
Yeah. And then quite honestly, I reconsider the swing, but,
Yeah, right, that's terrible.
yeah, just think about your swing.
Yeah.
And then the
sorry about
sheds to
that.
be removed,
So
so
embarrassing.
really in a,
Yes. So this really is the finished,
you would
mean-
remove the set, right?
yes,
Okay.
these do go under this. I mean, it's just very congested back here,
Okay.
so.
So you don't have one, but you're gonna have one.
I don't have one, but I will have one. yes.
Okay, all right. That's my last question, I'm
Yes.
sorry. So now you have 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you'd like to use it.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and close the public comment period, and we'll discuss the case. Any points? Other than the window?
I like the window.
Late in
I
the day.
agree, yeah.
Only because she's so kind, we can talk about girl things.
I just, as I said, I wasn't here for the previous discussion about the fence, but I think moving that fence in and leaving that tree in the alley is problematic.
So the reason why that really came about was there was concern about getting the grade in to deal with the FEMA issue and ensuring that they weren't pushing water into the alley. Because with all the big concerns we've been having in that district in particular.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, understood about the removal of the fence for the staging and the construction work and all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
opening it will actually relieve a lot of pressure by having easier access in and out across the other users of the alley. But when it's completed, notwithstanding that it seems to be pushing off the property line somewhat to accommodate the tree that is sitting
Yeah.
on the line, I would support the fence being restored to the position it's in today.
Well, I would say that if they don't have to take that particular portion out, don't
to leave
touch it.
That might be
Just
better.
protect it, like you would protect other features that you want to retain.
Agree.
Right?
Absolutely. Endless number of properties in the city of Tampa, older ones, not necessarily at this district, but others as well. Edison Elementary is an example. The whole neighborhood, you got trees up and down the corners and the side lots of these properties. Wonderful tree canopy, but that renders the place almost undevelopable between the number of trees, the property line encroachments. Having things on the wrong side of a line is not unusual in these whole neighborhoods. Taking this whole fence out opens up its own can of worms. And
Right.
if they do so, the city's gonna make them put it back on their property. So we got the situation of the tree there being exposed anyway. The proposal for, if you don't have to touch it, leave it alone, or at least a portion of it, so it's not gonna cause you, further problems, is a wise
Agree. Makes
way
sense.
of handling that situation. Unless some higher authority comes in and says, no, you can't do it.
Well, it looks
Well,
like
that's the other
it's,
thing, if they come back and say, well, you touched over 50% of that side, you gotta restore it.
That's a different
Yeah,
animal when
but
we
that's
get
out of
there.
our, that's out of our hands.
so I think the discussion and perhaps, note to the applicant is to take whatever amount of the fence out that is necessary to accommodate the staging and the activity, but no more. So now
Right.
strike that balance.
Yeah,
Understood?
yeah.
I would suggest that if the tree ended up in the alley, that the city would take it down. But
Not necessarily.
The problem is the city is not maintaining it, the alleys and any of the foliage or shrubberies or trees in them
They're-
very consistently.
We
So
are-
they
we are
tend to
told-
grow and,
We are told in my neighborhood with active alleys, we are responsible for whatever's outside our
Agreed.
property line along the alley. Oh, yeah, and it's not the city. Just like you're right away on the streets. It's our issue.
it's our issue, okay. I want to go back, however, to my comment about the material, because,
Oh, the shaker versus
Yeah.
the,
yeah, just because it's an accessory structure, and therefore it require that we often mention that the more simplicity, the better on these structures. And sometimes there is a belief that these need to be, that they need to have these, changes in material, or I can't replicate the rock, which I'm going to be very candid here. I have two comments. A, I think that rock is pretty hideous, but B,
I love the church on Central, so.
But B, it adds a certain amount of character to the neighborhood. And historic districts, when we become see, if it wasn't there, we would never let you put it there. We would say, oh, really? But you're keeping it, and I think that is very wise, because the historic district cannot become the kind of plastic celebration-ish place that really goes against everything that we're trying to preserve here. So preserving this one-off, only rock thing is a great idea, whether or not we, because somebody's going to buy it and love it, right?
Well, in terms of whether or not it has two materials or all shaker style shingles, it really is, to me, it's.
Right. So this is something that
It's a
we can perhaps opine about, but it does not become a condition.
It's
Unless
not,
our
it's,
historian
it's,
has it.
it's not a condition. From my point of view, I find if you will, the switch off on the materiality, in many respects, does respect this existing building. Because, the existing building has its base material, and it's the stone, that on the upper levels, you have that shake business. So we have the base and upper. And I think by continuing that for this accessory structure, even though they're different materials, you have the base of its materiality and the upper level mimicking what's happening on the existing dwelling being the shake, I think fits. I think what's missing here, and we don't have anything to say about it, is what's going to happen with the color.
We
But
cannot
that
say
has
anything about
nothing to do
color.
with it.
That's out.
That, the right color. I remember doing a project over with the school district, and the principal wanted to have this brand-new building painted this unbelievably red-brown that you go, oh my God. And he got his red-brown. And when it was all over and done with, between the trees and the existing brick school and all the rest of the stuff that was happening on campus, it absolutely fit. So we can't tell. We can't tell. There's a synergy that's still happening with this project. We're looking at some very preliminary documents. When it's done, I would hope to see a marvelous fit.
Any other thoughts on the materiality, whether or not it should retain its current look or reconsider? I really don't have an opinion either way.
I think it should be just off the table.
It should be all rocks.
It should be all rock.
All right,
We'll get you a truckload of rock from South Carolina.
Know how to blow the budget.
I have some in my yard. But anyway, do we have any other points of order to discuss? I have a motion to entertain them. Eeny, meeny,
Are we
miny, moe.
adding or subtracting anything?
I don't,
Well,
for me, nothing.
That one
The
window,
window.
Just the window discussion.
that's the only thing I can think of.
Something to be considered or something to be coordinated?
I
think
really
it should
feel
be
like it
added.
needs another
I
opening.
agree.
I think that there should be an added opening to that elevation with staff's review.
Agreed?
Okay. I have to get my,
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 23-472 for the property located at 712 South Edison Avenue with the following conditions: that the agent coordinate with staff the addition of a window on the neighbor's side of the construction. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons. It is consistent with the district in its height, its width, its massing and building form, its setback and orientation and site coverage.
I would just like to amend by saying that the window in question would be at the second floor level.
Yes.
May I have a second, please? You're good, you're good.
Second.
If you don't mind just coming up as a matter of record, we like to ask that you understand the conditions as put forth here tonight, okay?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor, please state aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations. And we need.
Nicely done.
We need a motion to enter into the record the staff list of items that were approved by staff this month.
An additional item and any additional documents presented tonight.
Yes.
Oh, there is a title on that piece of paper. Where is it?
It is there.
Ta-da. I move to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits presented here this evening's ARC meeting, including staff approvals.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Steve,